Welcome to General Science Module 15 for class while we're off for the coronavirus. We're going to do some videos. Chances are this video, I'm trying to keep them short so that they're easier to upload. So there'll probably be I'm sure there'll be a part 2 and there'll probably be a part 3. So watch for all 3 parts on this video. Going to go over everything. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at mrc@mrcscience.com. For those of you who haven't seen my lovely face lately, there I am. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through Module 15. Module 15 deals with 3 systems in the body: the lymphatic, the endocrine, and the urinary system. So we're going to try to cover all 3 of those today. Relatively short and sweet. First one we're going to talk about is the lymphatic system. You should have your books handy for this. If you don't have your books handy, go ahead and run and shut the video down right now. Run and grab it, and you'll have it back before I finish erasing the board. There we go. So you got your books. Okay, so get your books handy. Go ahead and turn to page 369. Turn to page 369. We're going to talk about the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system, cleaner here. Lymphatic system. Cleans fluids in your body. That's its job. Now, if you look on page 369, you're familiar with the circulatory system. You got your heart pumps blood. Going away from the heart is I can't remember the name. Arteries. Coming back to the heart are veins. Where an artery and a vein meets are really thin, small vessels called capillaries. This is where the exchange of gases goes on, as well as the exchange of fluids to transfer nutrients to the cells, to take in waste, things like that. So basically, capillaries are slightly porous. They got small little holes. They're small enough that the red blood cells and the white blood cells cannot pass out of them, but the fluid does. Once the fluid leaves the bloodstream, it is called interstitial fluid. And that's really hard writing, but if you look in your book, you can see it spelled there. Interstitial fluid. So once it leaves the bloodstream and just flows into the cells, the spaces in between the cells is called interstitial fluid. This is where it exchanges nutrients and things like that. Now, some of it goes right back into the bloodstream, reabsorbed through the capillaries to keep your blood pressure up, but other stays in the tissue and then ends up in lymph vessels. Now, on page 369, you'll see on the right a little thing looks like a piece of asparagus almost. I'm not doing a good job drawing it, that's why you're using your books. But it looks like a piece of asparagus. The cells in this aren't very tightly packed, so that the pressure from the outside of that interstitial fluid can work into these vessels. And the fluid leaves the cavities in between the cells and enters the lymph vessels. Once it enters the lymph vessels, it's called lymph. So really, it's all the same thing. In your blood, I still can't remember the name of what's it called? It's not serum. Well, the fluid in your blood, then it becomes interstitial fluid when it enters your tissue. Then when it enters a lymph vessel, it becomes lymph. So then it flows down here. Now, the lymph system does not have a heart or anything to pump it, but what it does is it has these little backflow valves so that it can only travel one way. If it tries to go the other way, these valves shut off and won't let it go back the other direction. What actually pumps it is these lymph vessels run alongside muscles in your body. So as you move, you pump that lymph through your body. So that helps move that fluid through. Eventually that lymph is then dumped back into the circulatory system. So once it's cleaned. In order to be clean, though, it has to pass into a vessel called a lymph node. Now, if you look on the look at your book on the page previous, figure 15.1, the human lymphatic system. You'll see in here they have bunches of lymph vessels, not near as much as you really have. Bunches of lymph nodes, and then a couple glands that are involved with the lymphatic system. So, glands that are involved with the lymphatic system, spleen. Spleen, one of the things it does is contains many white blood cells. So it can help with cleaning lymphatic and cleaning the blood, actually. The spleen also has a lot of red blood cells there just in case you work out really hard, need extra oxygen, or you get a severe injury where there's severe bleeding. Your spleen will pump that blood into your system to help keep your blood pressure up and help you survive. Another one listed in there is tonsils and adenoids. Many of you might have heard of tonsils before. They're in your throat, wrapped around your throat. They're part of the system there to protect, place a protective ring around your throat, release antibodies when necessary. Sometimes they're only really used when you're really young, not a lot of use when you get older, so a lot of people end up having them removed if they have issues with them. Thymus gland is a gland that has some endocrine functions. We'll get into the thymus more later, but let's talk about the word gland. Gland's going to come up in this and our next piece as well. A gland is a group of cells that prepare and release a chemical for use in the body. So they prepare a chemical, and that chemical is generally some kind of messenger or like a hormone or other chemicals. Saliva glands produce saliva, so they're basically little chemical warehouses. They create and produce chemicals needed in the body. Okay, we're going to hit the lymph node real quick. Turn to page 371. There's a picture of the lymph node. You got your lymph node. You got vessels that go in and vessels that go out. If it goes in, it's called afferent. So it's an afferent lymph vessel. If it goes out, it's an efferent lymph vessel. Why I say that is if you take anatomy, physiology, or some biology, you'll run across that term, afferent and efferent. Go in and go out. You'll notice on the picture they have one-way valves so that it can only flow, like we were talking before. So it can only flow one direction. Inside the node is where all the cleaning happens. So inside the node are some cells. White blood cells are found in here, but white blood cells, you're probably familiar with, help fight disease in your blood. Well, if they're inside a lymph node, they are called lymphocytes. Once again, just a different name. But there are a bunch of lymphocytes or white blood cells in the node to help fight off infection and disease. Then inside are two other cells, B cells and T cells. B cells produce something called antibodies. Antibodies are used to identify harmful materials and like viruses, like COVID-19. If you catch COVID-19, you're going to produce antibodies against COVID-19. T cells carry out an attack. They attack any bacteria and things that are brought into the cell. So you got your T cells and your B cells. Antibodies are kind of cool because part of B cells, there's another portion just called memory B cells. Memory B cells are effectively antibody producers that remember what the last thing that attacked them was. So they produce cells for the different things. If you've had the flu, you've got memory B cells that can produce antibodies for the flu. If you get COVID, you'll have memory B cells that produce antibodies for COVID. That's your body's way of remembering things that have happened and to fight it off more effectively next time. So usually when you're exposed to that kind of things, a big one is chickenpox. Chickenpox is a virus. Many kids get it when they're young, and they produce antibodies. They're pretty much immune to chickenpox for the rest of their lives, other than a little disease related to it. I forgot the name, but move on later. But so once you got chickenpox once, unless you had a real mild case, you will not get chickenpox again, which is good because chickenpox in adults can be very dangerous. So it's good to get it as a kid. But those memory B cells produce antibodies for chickenpox. Okay, that's also where the term vaccine comes from. What happens with a vaccine is you get that before you get a disease, so that it will inoculate against it. What it is usually a weakened or dead form of the disease itself. So that vaccine goes to your B cells. They start producing antibodies which create memory B cells, so that it remembers those antibodies it's ready to fight. So it produces those, and you're ready. If you get it later, your body can fight it off much easier. So with those memory B cells, or you can even be immune to it. Vaccines are good that way. They've wiped out a bunch of different things. In your book, you'll see some facts and figures about how vaccines have worked. I'm going to end the video right now and start part 2.